So today's video is called Paralysis through Overanalysis. I did not come up with this term. It's from Randy Peterson, who is the commentator for professional bowling on ESPN. And he just referring to when people get on camera for the first time, how they start to second guess everything that they already know. Like they smoked everybody in the tournament. And then now they get on camera and the oil patterns change a little bit because of the heat of the lights on the oil and it migrates. And then when their ball doesn't do what they want, they like completely like are like paralyzed in fear. So it's all based off fear. Okay. And so I could say a lot in this video, but I want to try to make this short. Not very good at that, but I'll try to make it short. A lot of decision making, I feel like, happens with people in training and specifically also in competition is fear based, and the only way to get better, okay, at that part, the fear of competition, the fear of not being able to do something in a training room is to just train more, to just compete more, and to also start to desensitize yourself to these unrealistic expectations that you've put on yourself, because that's really what it comes from. Okay, is because, and I've already done a video on how to deal with loss in competition, right? But I have people who DM me asking me questions about, how do they get over their fears in competition? How do they get over their fears about trying new stuff in practice? And then my first question is usually like, well, they don't call it fear. I call it fear. I bring it out of them by asking them, what are you so scared of? And then they're like, I guess losing. And then I'm like, why? Like, are you there to get better? Yeah. Do you think that always winning is going to make you better? Like the I've said this before, okay, because like the whole John Danaher 80-20 rule, I disagree with it. Okay. Like I really do. Like it makes you feel good to beat up people 80% of the time. But the level that I had to jump to from high school to college wrestling was not because I was wrestling people who were beneath me 80% of the time. It was because 100% of the time I was wrestling people who were as good, if not better than me. And I had to get better by necessity. Now, that's a tough training environment to be in. I'm not saying that you have to do that, right? But I do not believe that you going and beating up a white belt is going to make you like more confident, because then when you compete with somebody who's at your level and they give you a hard time, you're going to have all those alarm bells going off. They're like, this isn't supposed to happen, and you need to get the ego out of you by getting your ass kicked, not the other way around. Okay. And this is coming from somebody who has competed a lot. I competed a lot, almost every weekend for a very long time. Thousands matches, over 1,000 matches in competition that I have. You don't get better at the psychological part of competing by only doing it every once in a while and building it up to be this unrealistic thing. Now, for most of you people, you're not like trying to be a world champion, or if you are, I mean, thanks, welcome to the channel, but I doubt it. Like, like most people are probably good hobbyists, who or want to be good hobbyists, and they want to compete on the weekend, or they have a family. I mean, I've looked at the demographics, the age group of people. I mean, it's not everybody on my channel is young and full of the vigor to compete every weekend and all that kind of stuff that I did when I was young. Okay. So if you're an older person and you want to still compete, you know what I mean? Like be realistic with yourself that like, what are your real goals and expectations? Now, if they are to be a world champion, this still doesn't take away from that. If you put too much emphasis on the competition means everything to you, then you really are setting yourself up for failure when something just doesn't work out. Okay. So that unrealistic expectation of this means everything. Somebody wrote to me and we were talking and I said, so what are you so scared of? And he was like, I'm going to let my whole family down. I'm going to let down my girlfriend. I'm going to let down. And I was like, no, you created this problem. Okay. Because you blah, 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 like so many people do in jujitsu about this and that. You always are talking about jujitsu. And then now they're kind of like, all right, let's see how you do in competition. And then now you feel like, oh crap, now I have to win. Look what I just did to myself. Like you created this problem for yourself. Okay. So take it a little easy, see what happens. You don't even have to tell people that you're competing. I mean, I guess your girlfriend's going to know, but whatever it is, boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't care. Okay. Why are you doing this? Okay. Why are you doing this activity, this sport? You want to, and aside from all the meaning of life crap and everything that, I've heard people talk about, nobody has the answer to that. If you ask somebody what the meaning of life is and then they give you a long-winded answer, my God, like nobody knows the answer to that question. Okay. That's so egotistical to give somebody a long-winded response on what the meaning of life is. Like, you don't know what the meaning of life is other than reproduction. You don't know. So anyway, it means something different for everybody. Um, your life, if you're very invested in jujitsu, that's great. I love it. I was very, very invested in wrestling. Okay. But I also have this ability to have this sense of humor to make fun of myself for it because it's a very weird thing to be obsessed about. Okay. And if you take yourself too seriously all the time, you're going to disappoint yourself. Okay. So my advice would be that like when you go to practice is to go to practice. Okay. Like a guy asked me or a guy told me on my DMs, like, man, we have high school kids that come in or they just graduated high school or whatever a few years ago. They're young, but they wrestled in high school and they're fearless. They just come out, you know, super hard and they're, shooting on you and all this kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, so what do they have to be afraid of? And he's like, well, getting submitted. And I'm like, is that so scary? If I get caught in a submission, I'm not like, oh my God, oh my ego, oh, that hurts so bad. Oh, oh, I'm gonna drive home with the windows, down in the music off and contemplate why do I do this? Like, dude, get over yourself, okay? Like you're paralyzed by fear, okay, because you don't want that to happen again because of how it felt. I'm not saying that those things don't try to creep into my mind. I just had so much time in practice that I just laugh at it and laugh it off. Okay? Like if you're afraid to take a shot in practice because you think it's going to result in something that you couldn't expect or something that I'm going to shoot, I'm going to get darsed, then you need to learn how to get around the darce. I mean, darces happen on the ground when it isn't a shot. Okay. Like you have something to work on. That's good. You have something to work on then. Maybe I shoot 10 times, I get in on the leg, I got darsed 5 out of 10 times. Okay. Well, that's half. What did I do wrong those other times, and what's the solution to that problem? And when that occurs, maybe he's opening himself up, right? When he goes to the darts, he's giving you something that you didn't see before. And it's like, look at it more of like a game that you have to try to solve and not, like I have to be the practice champion. I mean, that accomplishes nothing. If you're going, look, I'm not being mean about this at all. I'm just saying, if you go home being like, I'm the practice champion, like, and that's the thing that you're beating your chest about, like, I don't think you're ready for competition. Like, because I think you're gonna, when things don't go well, then it's gonna hurt really bad. And I mean, maybe you should do it anyway. And this is why, like with kids, it's so good because they get so wrestling kids, right? They get so into it and and I know I was there. Okay. I did all of these things too. That's why I'm talking about it the way that I'm talking about it because I'm old and over it now. Okay. But like, you're all like, when they lose, they cry and like all this stuff. And if you're a good coach, you let that happen. Didn't unvalidate it, right? I validate it. I know that hurt. And it's because you care. I want you to care. I'm glad that you care. Okay. So that's fine. We've got practice in 2 days. Maybe that was like on a Saturday. We've got practice on Monday and it's fine. We'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. And when they're kids, like they're so resilient, that they can you can get them to work through those things. But it hurts worse, I think, when you're that age because your identity's wrapped into it, your girlfriend and the school. And they're going to announce on the thing when you score well, like they would do that announcements in the morning and say like, oh, I pinned somebody in so much time. And I didn't like that because I was like, you guys are putting more pressure on me to perform. But like I put that pressure on me, right? Like I didn't look at it as a game. And oddly enough, the sports that I did that weren't my main focus, that I did like swimming and cross country and track, like I didn't put that kind of pressure on myself. I really didn't. Like I wanted the pressure to make the team, to make the final cut of the 7 guys that we had out there. But I did not pressure myself to like win, a race. And then when it didn't happen, like get all down on myself and, I'm a loser. I guess I'm a loser. So I have a video on this, by the way, called um, how to deal with loss in competition. So I won't go through all of that. Okay. But really it's fear based. You're being paralyzed by fear to try things that you need to work on because you're already expecting that the outcome is going to be something that is unfavorable. If you've already anticipated the unfavorable outcome and then that's what you're focusing on, you are absolutely going to write the history the way that you fear. But if you go into it, okay, and this is what I always used to tell my kids that I'm coaching. If you go into this match and you just put it all on there, 110%, you just keep trying. That's all you can do. We've already taught you're not going to pull off some move in the middle of the match. That's why I made the joke about like people like, I'm going to lat drop that guy. I'm like, don't do that. Do not think that you're going to go out there and hit somebody with a certain move. And this is a huge problem in jiu-jitsu because people are always overthinking everything. Overthinking like the technique has to be perfect and it has to look this way and I have to do all these things when they can't even get it on a shot. And they're asking me about when you shelf the leg and and you cover like I'm showing you exactly how it's supposed to look when everything works perfectly and you've been doing it for many, many, many years. You're not going to watch me do it and then all of a sudden like the Matrix download it and be like, oh, I know Kung Fu now when you've never done it. If you've never competed, you don't know what that feels like. I do not care what people say. Practice will not prepare you for competition. It'll prepare you for the shape, maybe for competition. It's going to prepare you for the mechanics that you need for competition, but it is not going to prepare you for the mental state of competition. I don't care how many people you beat up in practice. I don't care. I know that I hear people say that. I disagree with it. And it's because I have the experience to say it. If you don't compete, you don't know what it feels like. You will, chances are, it feels different. There are people watching you that they normally aren't. The whole thing is different. The venue is different. The whole weight cutting, if you do any of that, weighing in, checking your gi, it's all psychological at that point. You're not above it until you've done it. And people who talk about it, what it feels like to be under the lights, who have never been under them, need to check themselves a little bit. Okay. They need to check themselves a little bit because they don't know what they're talking about because they've never been there. I can watch other people do things all the time. That does not make me an expert in it. I can watch the gymnastics and the swimming and all of those events in the Olympics. That does not make me an expert. I cannot tell those people what it feels like to be under their lights because I watch a lot of it. That's nonsense. Okay. It's complete and utter nonsense of being the authority on something that you have no experience in. If you want to get better in competition, you just need to compete more because it is different. Okay. If you want to, and then you need to let it go in the practice room and let it fly a little bit and practice new things, right? And take risks for things because there's nothing on the line in practice. It doesn't matter. And for a local tournament, there's nothing on the line either. It's just that you've created this problem for yourself by telling all of your friends, telling your girlfriend, wife, whatever, boyfriend, whatever, telling your coworkers, telling everybody that you're going to do all of these things and building it up and building it up and building it up. And then when you get there, paralyzed by fear. Okay, because oh no, what if it doesn't go the way that I want, that I put in my mind, right? Show up, turn that off. You'll have to learn how to do that by practicing by doing it, by practicing more, by meaning competition. Doing it more often will help you to be like, focus on what's at the time. Don't focus on the outcome. You focus on the outcome, you're setting yourself up for failure. because all the fears about what that outcome is going to look and feel like, because you're putting too much pressure on, like I'm weighing my self-worth on this outcome of this competition. It's just not realistic to do things like that. I get it, man. I've been there. I have been there. I have done that. I have felt that way. I'm hard on myself. I'm really hard on myself. It's made me really good at things because I'm hard on myself, so I have high expectations for myself. But that's not the best way. Okay. Now I'm going to start competing in judo again when my leg lets me, which is coming up. It's getting there. It'll be a year. It's almost a year to the date from the injury. About 2 weeks. It'll be the year from the injury date. The surgery was done 3 months later. So, yeah, 2 months later. So, but anyway, like I'm going to compete in judo, but I'm not going to feel like if I get bombed in judo that like I'm no good. I'm a terrible person. All of the things that I learned in grappling are shit because I did terrible in this competition. That's the recipe for me to quit, right? And the reason I'm still doing this all these years later, 1991 I started wrestling. And I went right into the competitive mind thing, and then I helped other people with this stuff, and I've been in some competitions from them. And then now I'm going to go back into it from judo, like after 20 years of not competing. Like I have a much better mindset of going in and just not giving myself too much expectation and just using it as a learning tool. Okay. So I hope that this helps you to at least be like, you don't need to put fear on it because it's not important. Okay. It might be important to you, and you can let it be important to you, but to be paralyzed for fear by fear is doing literally the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish, which is, you want to do well. Okay. But even if you don't do well, that doesn't mean that you suck. Okay. It might mean that the other person's just better. If I go into a U of M wrestling room, right, and at the University of Michigan down the street, if I go into that room, I'm going to get my butt kicked. Okay. I am almost 45 years old. I know a lot about wrestling. Does it mean I suck? No, I don't suck. Those guys are awesome. They had many, many people who are all Americans. Okay. So, if somebody beats me now at my age, my experience level, I go, oh, wow, that was really good. They did a really good job, right? So I'm happy for them. If you can learn how to do these things, you can learn how to be happy for somebody who's doing a good job. And then you can learn how to look at it as being like, stop being so scared of trying new things because you think that it's going to hurt your feelings. Like you need to learn how to get thicker skin so that you can be more resilient and you'll get better as a result. Okay, so I hope that this helps you. Let me know what you think. I'm going to start bullying people who try to bully me online. And I actually I hope that you do the same. When somebody says something stupid, I'm gonna let you have it. And I hope that everybody else jumps in, okay? Because I'm tired of people who don't know anything, who've never competed, who don't know anything about wrestling, who chime in and say, like, I showed a lift and trip, right? Most common single leg takedown, lift and trip, right? And somebody was like, I looked up 20 different leg entanglement takedowns, and that's not one of them. And I was like, well, look again. So I sent him some videos. Like, I'm tired of that. So anyway, if I'm going to keep doing this channel, then I would expect that maybe some people will start like silencing these morons, okay? Because we want to be better at this sport and get rid of that kind of person who's just distracting away from what's actually being said here. I want actual comments that people have so that other readers can read those things and they might identify with the fears and the thoughts. Be vulnerable, say what you feel and what I just did. I used to get the crap scared out of me. That's how I know all of these things, okay? Because I've been there. I used to get the crap scared out of me, but I showed up anyway and I still did it, right? And then as a result, like I learned like, oh, it's not that bad. I can keep I can, and I'm going to go back to it. I'm going back to it. I blew my knee out and I'm not afraid to compete. Okay? Like all I wanted was to get back out there. The paralyzed by fear would have been to say, well, I guess I just have bad knees and I shouldn't do it. They repaired my knee. So, and it's pretty much almost ready to go a little bit here. Okay. I got a little bit more longer to go. I can tell. I'm going to be smart about it. But like, if you're so paralyzed by fear, it makes me worry that maybe, you're not mentally prepared for this and you need to work on that because I don't want you to quit. I want you to keep doing it, but I want you to realize that like that might be your biggest obstacle. Your biggest obstacle is you, not the person that you face. So leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. And until next time, thanks again for watching.